Brannon from B2R Investing. So, morning, man.
Morning.
We're gonna try and
Yeah,
pack.
buddy.
We're gonna try and pack it in this week because unfortunately we're gonna have to skip next week. I have a follow-up surgery at 6 a.m. in the morning Hawaii time, so we're gonna pack it in today. So we're actually gonna catch up on last week's topic because Brandon did have a lot of great information, had a lot of notes to cover, kind of about his past experience and how it has helped him in real estate investing in general. And then we're gonna dig into his most recent video he put on his channel. So let's dig into it, Brandon.
Sure. So, just following back up I took some key principles from accounting that I learned from the CPA that I worked for. A couple of things that the big thing that I've always remembered is when I was building the businesses that I had is discovering, do I actually have a business or do I just own a job? If I have to be there for the company to function, all I really own is a job. Now you can be there some, but understanding whether you do or not and being able to get away from that company and it still produce and still do well. The second was the relationship we talked about last week of the statement of cash flow. Understanding that cash flow looks at the balance sheet and the profit and loss. And I think most people naturally understand profit and loss and don't understand the relationship of the balance sheet with the profit and loss. And to also do is get revenues before expenses. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, even in this real estate business that we have, is they sometimes they get that out of order and then they have more struggles of timings of revenues and expenses. The further the expense is away from the revenue, you put your life and your business in jeopardy and your real estate in jeopardy. If your expenses come first and it's a significant period of time till the revenues come, you're in a financial crisis in a lot of ways. But if you're trying to time them, if they're close with each other, it's a healthy organization. You always got to be looking at the timings of the expenses and the revenues. So that's some of the things that I remember were important and taught to me. Into the stockbroker world, we talked about the difference between average return and what that calculation and how it's done versus actual real rate of return, because the actual real rate of return factors in the law of compounding, both compounding to the positive, but also compounding to the negative. And when I was a stockbroker, they always talked about average returns of 12 to 13%. And if you listen to a lot of the stockbrokers now, the ones that are talking better numbers, you're seeing them talk more 9, 10%. And I think that's pretty interesting that their number of even their average calculation is coming down. The other thing is diversification has a cost. It's a cost in the returns that you get and years on your life. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a process, right? I mean, a lot of people, and I see it in our community, and you see it kind of a lot of the questions that always come in the school community. People are always maybe in the beginning. I think Frank actually posted it, right? A great question about what do you think is more harmful in a sense, right? Is it analysis paralysis or is it going too fast to some extent, right? So I thought there was a great discussion in school on that topic as far as what do you see probably being more harmful for people, right? So like you're talking about your background in finance, accounting. So to some extent, you've kind of touched on it, right? Sometimes maybe that's people are looking at just the numbers only. They're strictly trying to look at numbers, dig into the weeds on that, and before they actually take that leap. Whereas I think some people not having that background, could help them start investing sooner, but it's other factors like their career that actually helping them get through this, right? So I always talk about like being a first responder, Millennial Mike, myself, even Yasik, whatnot, people that are going to jump in, and it's always kind of the mindset is we're going to be okay no matter what happens, right? We'll figure it
Yeah.
out, right?
And I think it's the two ends of the spectrum. Your analysis paralysis, the natural personality trait is a little more fear based because they're more afraid of losing than they are of gaining and winning. The other side of it is you can go to the other extreme where you're jumping in too hard, too fast because you don't have that fear, and you can make mistakes that way too. And so it's between those two spectrums, trying to find where that balance is. And that's what I feel like, we're all trying to discover where that is. Because I've watched those people that I can analyze, but I've realized in running a company, I have to make a decision. And if you think of the word being balanced, if you're balanced, are you moving forward? You're not.
Oh, yeah.
A balanced perspective means you're standing still and not moving forward. So I want to be slightly unbalanced, but making managed risk decisions. And you have to make a decision. And so I see people that get that even in the business world, their analysis paralysis, and they don't move forward. They're in that trying to balance all those perspectives, and they can't be leaning forward and moving forward. So that's a
Yeah,
perspective I think about.
that's a great point. So even if you talk about like riding a bike or surfing, right? You are balanced, but you're moving in a direction, right? So you're
Yes.
balanced in that motion though, right? So
I would say you're stabilized.
yeah.
You're stabilized, but moving forward. Completely balanced, you're staying still.
I think it was Sean Lambert that commented on that post that I think Frank put up. But he had a great point. He says he thinks analysis paralysis is more harmful because no matter what, you don't ever take action and you basically are in the same situation. Whereas if you go too fast, yes, you may lose money, make some mistakes, but most likely the worst case scenario is you're going to end up right back where the analysis paralysis person is in a sense,
Right.
right? So if you never take any action, you're going to end up in that same place of someone just analyzing things for over 20 years, right?
Right, exactly. But I think on the other side, growing too fast, one of the principles from accounting is free cash flow. And what you're looking at is when you're looking at a statement of cash flow, you're looking at there's three parts to a statement of cash flow. You've got operating activities, financing activities, and investing activities. And I think when somebody tries to grow too rapidly and too fast, you'll look at and understand that their free cash flow, it's non-existent. And what they're having to do for typical operating activities is they're having to use credit cards and use other sources of financing to cover operating activities. That's another perspective a lot of people don't understand in accounting. I see a lot of people, even in this group, in this business, let's say this investing, they want it and they want it all now. And so they continue to push and press, and they get caught in a spot where their free cash flow isn't there, and they're financing operating activities. And whether they work themselves out of it or not, it creates a massive amount of stress because they're juggling the timings of their revenues and expenses. They're out of whack. It might still be a right decision, but they're pressing on too hard, and they're having to do operating activities with financing activities. And this is just, like I said, this is my background in accounting. And so the way I do it to reduce stress, I grow more steady. I'm not pressing. And if I'm doing 2 a year, I'm comfortable with that. And even if it's 0, I'm comfortable. I'm very content where I am today. And so it allows things to come to me more naturally when it's right versus I want more, I want more, I want more. That's just not where I'm at. I'm later in my career and in retirement now. I don't have to press anymore. I was like that. So I understand where others are. I had that mentality. I'm I'm mature in my financial condition and I don't press at all. I love doing these builds. It's really not just oh, I want to grow, I want to grow. I actually love it. I love that feature. It doesn't even feel like work, but I don't press to get, okay, last year I did 2. Well, this year I got to do 10. Next year I got to do 20. If I did 1 or 2 a year, I'm comfortable with that, and I make better decisions, and my numbers are better because I just don't press as hard.
All right, before we get to Jim has a good question, I think, but Yasik does mention that's why ORAT, the one rental at a time community, is so important. Having a group that will help you move forward or slow down when needed. Ike
Because we've got
Hobbs,
2 different perspectives. There's lots of different ranges. Let's just say it's ranges in there, and I think our group is a very healthy balance. You've got some that are fully retired, some that are close to being retired, and some that are at the beginning of their journey. And that's a good thing in our group, very, very much.
good point. Ike Hobbs, who you had coffee with, he is tuning in from your channel, and he's also confirmed that he bought tickets for the ORAT event in February, but he says you can't learn from analysis paralysis. And here is the question I want to dig into. So Jim, the grumpy contractor, says, definition of what is too fast?
Everybody's definition is a little different. My thinking is kind of going back to what I was just talking about. For me, if my operating activities are not covering my normal operations and I'm having to use alternate financing, I might be pressing too hard for me. Doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong. It can get out of balance and it can take you down. That's the danger with it. So you've got to work yourself through that, because in here we talk about the people with the successes, but I have experienced watching the people that have failed. I've seen it on the bank side, and maybe y'all have seen it in life too, that they were pressing too hard, a company growing too hard, too fast, and the service they provided collapsed on itself.
Sorry, I just saw Rusty Riley tuning in on Instagram. So what's up, man? Please come on over to YouTube and join us on this side. But yeah, I would agree. I think that the biggest thing there is it's really knowing yourself, right? So I think Jim may have wanted to bring up that question because a lot of people in our community know that he put a lot on his plate at one time, right? So he basically had 3 burrs in California all going at one time, and these are kind of his 3 first burrs that he's ever done, right? So it's been a lot for him, and I think he's getting through it. But he's also faced some challenges and difficulties. And I think the bottom line though is he understands himself, right? So he
Right.
knows that this is something that, not saying he works better under these conditions, but for him, he'd rather do it this way and see how much they push himself to the max, I guess, in a sense, instead of doing one at a time, which would be maybe a lot less stressful for himself, right? So
Yeah,
it's
you just got to know what amount of stress level you can healthily handle. And I do think stress can get out of balance and cause health issues, relationship issues. You've got to know yourself. I could Earlier in life, I pressed hard. I loved the pressing and going and pushing ahead. I'm in a spot now. I'm wanting simplification and less stress, and just really letting life come to me. I'm not having to pursue it. I'll just let life come to me, and I'm enjoying that less stress and enjoying life. Everybody's different. I mean, but I understand where, let's just say Cody in his 20s, I was exactly where Cody was. I was pressing hard, wanting to conquer the world. I'm now in my mid 50s and I'm comfortable where I'm at and don't have to have that goal now, but I needed it in my life in my 20s and 30s. So I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the one thing too, right? Is also like people kind of mock Elon and SpaceX for his rocket ships exploding and all that. But he's doing it for a reason, right? He's pushing it to a threshold to see how much it can handle and to
Yep.
what extent it can go. And yeah, you're going to fail, but you're trying to push it to see its limits. And I think, same thing, right? You have to know yourself. And I think Jim is capable of getting through this, right? I think, if like Zuber talks about too, because Jim's background, it's not as if Jim has to contract out all the work. If he really needed to cut costs or tighten things up, then he's going to do the work
Yeah.
himself, right? So he does have ways to kind of lessen the load in a sense from a cost standpoint. May take a little bit, but he's going to get it done himself. But he does have has a plan there, right?
And I think we want to make sure, and I think it's good we have all these different discussions which are coming from different perspectives. People are figuring out it gives them time to figure out, well, what do I want? What am I comfortable with? Because I think this group, no one wants anyone in this group to fail, to complete collapse. And so we're having these discussions, and I think this group are a bunch of doers, but if we saw somebody in this group that was absolutely failing, I think there's people in this group that would try their best to intervene to help them not fail. And that's what I appreciate about this group.
Oh yeah, I want to mention I see Ryan Ruff here, who's also going to be speaking in Vegas with his wife, Keisha. I just did a long form interview with them too, so go check
Yes.
it out on my channel. It was a great time actually finally getting it done, because it's been, shoot, man, I think a year maybe we've been trying to get it on the schedule. But he says my most valuable lessons have been acquired through experiences of failure.
Mhm. I think I agree with that. That is where we learn the most. We tend not to do as much introspection when it goes well, and really evaluate, here I could have improved this, but we do generally do more introspection when we have failed. I failed in one business before. I tried something and it failed. Failure is not fatal if you learn from it and still move forward.
Well, I think I've succeeded in getting you to stop wearing the long sleeve Aloha shirts, so that's a win in
Oh,
my
I've
book.
got it. I got it. You wait. I'm going to just purposely wear them as much as I can. But this is Christmas time, so I'm wearing my Christmas ones.
But I'm not sure if you have any more. I know you had a lot of notes on this one, but I didn't know if you want to stay on this or dig into your most recent video. But
I
Chris
think.
Webb, oh, he is saying, Brandon, I was talking about you to a contractor here in Lynchburg. He is interested in building here. I'll have to get you two together. Okay.
Okay. Let me think. On the banking side, I think the perspective, it was just wonderful. I'm in there on that board, and these were some of the business people in the community too were on this board. These were high level people presenting packages. These were loans of million to 5 million, and you're having to present these packages. It really challenged you, and it kind of sharpened how I evaluate things. It was just that banking career was an MBA on steroids. And I mean that. It was an MBA education, because I was analyzing 100+ companies, sometimes a year. I learned so much of different types of businesses, what was successful, what wasn't, how well those owners knew their businesses. And it was just interesting. At times I could help them make little tweaks to their business to make them more profitable, which gave me an education when I started my businesses.
I do see Gus, new member of school on Instagram. So come join us on YouTube. And I do see Monica, who was on the channel last week, Wednesday. So please tell Monica that you like to see her on tomorrow again, because she says she doesn't like being on camera, but I think she did a great job.
I
So we're
think
trying
she
to,
did a great job.
exactly. So we're trying to get her back on tomorrow to join me and Joel. I'm not sure if Lauren's available again. But we'll see. We'll see if Monica comes on. And she's laughing on Instagram. See, she is watching. But I just want to tell Rusty was asking what the main topic is. So we're kind of wrapping up last
Yep,
week's
we
one.
wrapped up that. So I've
Yeah.
got the
So
10 Commandments right here.
yeah. So Brannon last week was discussing kind of his past work history and how it's kind of impacted his investing. And now we're going to dig into one of his more recent videos about his 10 commandments on investing. So go ahead, Brannon.
So yeah, I worked on this for a little while, and what I tried to do, and is I had the actual 10 commandments in front of me. So I was trying to write the wording very as similar to but also fits into my core values. And so the first one that I put in there, and I do think this is the beginning, is thou shalt know what an average deal is. That if you're looking to invest, if you don't know that market well, you probably shouldn't invest. You're going to make mistakes. You need to know what average is. And that's what I just put as my number one, or the very first one, is knowing what average deals are. So then you could only buy good and great deals. So that's number one. Number two is remember that cash flow is king of your investment strategy. You shall have no other metric before thee. This goes to never compromising buying assets. And if we look at one of our OG books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where do the middle class focus on? They focus on income. Where do the wealthy focus? They focus on assets, but they also, in that, they focus on assets that produce income. And when you look at the definitions from what an asset and a liability, a lot of people get very confused. Assets are assets that produce income even when you are asleep. So these are more passive type of investments and can work and produce income even when you're not having to completely actively do it. So that's what I put is cash flow is king. Hold your money accountable, making sure you add all your expenses. And what I put is the minimum starting cash flow for any investment that I do is I want at least $250 a month in positive cash flow. That's where I'm at now.
All right, before we move on to your next one, so how would you look at your primary residence?
It is an absolute liability. But it's a needed one. You have to have shelter. I look at my house, and the issue is I'm at 2 3/4 interest rate, and it's a pretty good spot to be. And down the road, we've got kids, so at this moment, it's not worth moving, but it is an absolute liability. Here in Texas, property tax, here I'm paying almost right now $19,000 just in property tax on the house. It's a killer.
For those of you that may not have seen my recording with Zuber, that we go through his comment sections, that was kind of something that was brought up. There was someone, Eddie Tennyson, who has been on Zuber's channel before. He posted on X. He was talking about like a 2% mortgage rate. He was like, a 2% mortgage rate, I believe, is not an asset, but it's the best liability that you'll ever have.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think even what is not an asset is an asset that increases in value, but still does not put money in your account. That is not an asset. That's a liability. You might have an asset that is appreciating, but it's still a negative return. That is a liability.
Lynn says she pays $7,000 in Cali.
Yeah.
Rusty says same.
But I don't pay personal income tax in Cali or in Texas.
All right, we'll end it. We'll stop that right there. We'll dig into
But
that
no.
one day later.
Yep.
Where you at now? What commandment are you on now?
So then number 3, thou shalt underwrite conservative performance and not bear false witness against thyself. And what that's talking about is when you're underwriting a project, you're using proper numbers. If it takes, let's just say it takes for a project for it to cash flow, it has to be max market rents. You have to extrapolate a higher than market. If I can get 2,000, well, it'll finally cash flow if I get $2,100. Now I know that's a little bit above market, but I'm going to push to get that 2,100. Then it cash flows. You're deceiving yourself, but then also not being able to put in all the appropriate expenses at what they really will be. I watch people pencil whip investments. They'll manipulate the numbers really to lie to themselves to make it look as a viable investment. So I'm saying you've got to be realistic and not lie to yourself.
Trade Better, who's just back in returning from Japan, he's back in the States, but he said, "Would you set up a backyard office to offset your property taxes on your primary home?"
I own my own office too. I have a commercial building, so but I wouldn't do it. I don't do that. I mean, I have an office in the house. I don't purposely take those deductions so that down the road, if I were for some reason they chose to audit me, I got several other deductions I could add. Oh, Mr. Auditor, I guess I've never taken deductions for my home office that we use. I've never counted mileage to one of my properties. I'll add all that stuff. I just use that as I don't need it.
Victor, who is working on a big project, I believe, in Mexico, but he says, if you house hack, does your home still be a liability or asset?
If you're house hacking and it produces positive income, it is an asset.
Okay.
You are
So what if though it lowers your cost of living? So like
that's
okay,
exactly where I was about to
okay.
go. But if it lowers the cost of your living, it is a positive thing. Let's just say, for an example, this duplex, it gets you to it's break even with all the other tenants in there. The ideal is you don't have to contribute anything, but if it went to where you're only contributing $1,000 or $500 a month to your living expense, because that is an expense you have, it's a positive thing. But you're still having to pay expenses and it's taking money out of your pocket, it's not quite an asset yet.
Ike Hobbs is asking, what kind of margins do you put in to be realistic and not lie to yourself?
So, what I do, and actually right behind me, I've got numbers on the board. I'm going to be filming something later today. When I'm underwriting a project, I don't even use average market rents. I actually use low average rents, which right now I use a metric of 5% below what the rents are in the market. And I'm looking for a 10% cash on cash return with 5% below market rents. Then I'm looking at what are taxes. I'm not putting in what the taxes are today. Let's just say it's a lot and all I'm being taxed on is the lot. I don't put that tax bill in there because that's not what the expense is going to be. I'm putting it in at where those tax of a house on the property, where those taxes are. I have a formula for insurance and it's dialed in within less than $50. I dial that in with the way I do it with 5% deductibles. I'm putting that in. I'm starting out at 8% reserves because this is brand new property. We get a builder's warranty the first year. I've got history too. I've been able to build up a massive amount of reserves starting out at 8, and then I add 8% every other year. So I'm trying to make sure that even when I underwrite, I have my fourplex, I used below market rents. So I know that every angle, and then also with mortgages. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, what do I anticipate the mortgage being 9 months from now? So there's a little bit of challenge with that. So I always put a number that is realistic and maybe a little high where I know I can get it. Right now, I'll give an example. So I was recently quoted um, without paying any points. And I do tend to pay points down because I don't plan to refinance anytime soon. I'm quoted 5.7 fixed for 30 years. I know that's the number. Well, I also look at what I think is going on in the economy. I don't anticipate the rates going up much, if anything. I think the general rule is it might stay where it's at or come down a little bit. Well, I'm still putting in scenarios of interest rate higher than the 5.7. That's just going to be the bonus of what that'll be. But I know generally, I think the rates are going to be stable, or there's a more chance they could come down a little bit over the next 9 months. So I even put a higher interest rate for the mortgage in there. I do start at my perspective is starting at 70% loan to value as my starting point. Every now and then it'll be give or take. I mean, I've got one right now. It's at 71.5%. Because of the way the appraisal came in, but it's still close. I'm shooting for 70%.
Nice. Ryan Ruff says that's why we house hack. Yep. So where are we at on your commandment list right now?
So that was number 3. Number 4, thou shalt have control over the real estate investment. The reason I got into real estate and got out of the stock market is I had control over my own destiny. Who cares more for my own destiny? It's me. Buying REITs, buying syndications, they don't always have my best interest at heart. So I want to be in control of my investments.
Was there ever a situation where you almost lost control?
Well, stock market,
Okay.
you know.
But in any type of real estate?
I have never bought with a partner or syndicate. I've not done any of that. But I guess you'd say a little bit of a control freak, and I want to control my own destiny, and I figure I can do it better.
Nice. Okay.
And the other thing is if I own the asset, I'm building my own wealth, not theirs. So that's number 4. Number 5, honor your quality investments over quantity. I want better quality properties. And then same thing with the tenants. I want quality tenants, not getting quantity and getting lower quality. Quality tenants and quality properties create less headaches.
Do you think people have been obsessed with how many doors you have in the past few years? Like not you specifically, but people in general are more about unit count.
I think, I see that as the general rule. People ask initially how many doors, and they don't realize that's not the right question. It's really the quality. What is your goals? What is your returns on the number of doors? I mean, I've seen people that have way more than I do and have similar cash flow, or sometimes even less than what I've got with a lower number of doors. I'm at simplification phase. I want to have more with less headaches.
I would say that's probably the general consensus for the one rental at a time community
I think
for the most part.
I hear that conversation way more here than in other forms, in other venues.
Yeah.
Ready for the next one?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, number 6. Thou shall not commit to sell your core real estate assets that perform. I don't want to get the principles. I don't want to get rid of the golden goose. That's me. I know that's different than some people, but that's me. I don't want to get rid of the golden goose.
So, every situation is different, but would you ever consider selling a good property to kind of help the portfolio in a sense in the long run? Yeah.
When I say core asset, I'm talking about the ones that are the best performers. Yeah. And guess what I can get with the best performers? I bet I could get a premium. Why would I get rid of the golden goose? If I'm
Well,
going to prune, yes, I understand pruning. If I'm choosing to sell one of my ones that have the most headaches or don't perform as well as the top tier group, I might consider it. But if it depends on what it is. But I'm not going to sell. But I don't have the perspective of selling anything at this moment. I see these properties at this moment. Time can change. I don't anticipating selling any of them at all.
well, let's use Jim for example. I mean, he's not in this type of situation, but let's say he's doing 3 projects. Let's say he had other properties in his portfolio, right? And let's say he ran into some issues with money or financing or whatnot. Would you consider selling a better asset to help with this current situation he's in, or would you, like you're saying, you would probably sell off a problem property, which
I would
would
try to.
probably yield you less, right? So that's
I
what I'm
know,
saying.
and it would yield you less. But if I'm starting going back to my principles of the 70% loan to value, I have all kinds of options. That was the starting percentage. All of mine now, my average loan to value on my entire portfolio is right at 60%. And I mean, it's spot on because I'm one of the rare, I am the unpopular opinion here of that I focus on wealth and cash flow both at the same time. I have options. When I'm starting at 70% on every single one of my properties, I can look at all of them because I've got equity, lots of equity in every one of them. That's just where I'm at.
Yep. Gus is saying there are some people who own their doors and got them the right way and are 100% proud when they say the number. There's a difference, in my opinion. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, I think the difference is that some people are more concerned with the amount of doors they have and not really, like you're saying, the how much debt they have on it, or if it's actually a good property to hold, right? They're just more concerned with their door count, and that's what they
Right.
like to
Right.
present, right?
I just don't want to be a real estate trader. I watch all these that are real estate traders, and what they're doing is initiating a tax event because the government doesn't tax wealth; it only taxes income. And I don't want to. I want to hold on to the wealth because it's untaxed, and I can tap into that wealth without having to sell it.
All right, where are we?
So that was number 6. So, um, thou shalt not covet other strategies. Concentrate on one strategy, but diversify geography.
Ooh,
I do think, even in this group, there are some people that struggle with this of the next shiny new strategy that's producing good returns.
right as Jen pops in, I think that was directed. She heard her ears burning, so that was perfect for her. But just quickly, I mean, you can still touch on, but as you mentioned that, I do want to let the cat out of the bag a little bit. But there is a new accountability call that will be starting soon. I believe this Saturday. There's going to be a short-term rental, mid-term rental focused accountability call this Saturday. I believe Ray and Chris Price will be the ones leading it. It's called O-Strat, I believe. One short-term rental at a time. That's going to be the group. So check it out.
Yeah.
It should be out there in the community soon. Zuber's putting it on the calendar.
So I've watched and truthfully, but I've learned it through sports and through business. I am hyper focused on things. When I was doing my sport, my tennis, it was the only sport I played from the time I was 3 years old till I was 22. Then I got into triathlon. It was the only thing. But I will say sometimes it gets me out of balance because I get so hyper focused. Well, I'm doing the same thing. I don't get tempted by other strategies. I've got mine, and that's all I'm going to focus on at this moment. It's one focus at a time, and I get better at it, and I dial it in better.
I do see Brandy Morgan tuning in from your channel. So good morning, Brandy. Oh, Brady Morgan. Sorry.
Brady.
It says 100% nailed it. Quality over quantity. I also aim for low overall LTV on portfolio. You don't need hundreds of units. Is that going to be someone attending Vegas?
I don't know. I don't know them. So that's
Oh,
somebody new that
oh,
I don't recognize. I'm glad they're listening.
oh. Well, Brady, don't forget to jump to my channel since Brannon has now leapfrogged me in subscribers. So I don't promote his channel anymore, but
That's
jump over
right.
to
That's right.
But I see Frank tuning in. Everyone should check out Frank. Put out a video also on his channel about how to win some prizes. I believe he's giving away Yasik. We want to thank Yasik for buying some of the remainders of the One Rental at a Time T-shirt that Frank made, and he's giving them away. So go check out his video and see how you can get a hold of one of those T-shirts.
Yeah.
But Frank is saying diversified geography. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I don't want to be tied into one single community. I'm actually looking, my portfolio right now is in two different cities because you can have I'm doing the same strategy in a community. The beauty is it's a community not far from the other community, but it's two different economies in somewhat of a degree. Each city has a little bit different economy, but I'm still doing the same strategy. I probably will end up with, I can anticipate, and these are all within a 1 hour drive from my house, but it's still a little bit different uh, economies to some degree. Dallas Fort Worth, which very blessed to live here. I'm glad the United States joined us back in the 1800s. Um, all of us. But Dallas Fort Worth now is the fourth largest in population, and what they're projecting, we should exceed Chicago here in less than 10 years. We'll be larger than Chicago. And just our Dallas Fort Worth economy alone, we were the number one in job growth last year, almost 600,000 new jobs. The next closest metropolitan area was half of what Dallas Fort Worth grew in jobs. So I'm staying here because the overall economy is excellent. Plus, our Dallas Fort Worth airport is expanding. We're At one point we were number one in travelers. You can get to both coasts in less than 3 hour flights. So there are a lot of Fortune 500s that have moved here in the last couple of years. Charles Schwab just moved to North Fort Worth. I look at this economy. I can hit every one of my goals here in Dallas Fort Worth because the overall economy is diverse. It's diverse types of jobs, but it's still massive job growth and population growth.
Jen Tam says, yes. What course do I buy next? What strategy should I do next? Tell me, Brandon.
Just listen to this group. But unfortunately, there's so many people that get caught up with the shiny new uh, model of the year that's doing the best. I just going to stick with, I guess, I'm doing boring. I'm sticking with the same model and just going with it and not getting distracted.
Chris Webb has some big news. I don't know if he wants me to mention it yet, but he is saying he has to change his plane tickets to Vegas. So maybe we'll discuss that later on. But Gus is saying, but having 100 doors and buying them the right way gives you a ton of options. What is your thoughts on that, Brian?
Whatever your goals are, mine are less than 25, and I'll have options too. But maybe I'm having less headaches than 100 doors. I don't know. It just depends on how well you built the model.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to each their own. Definitely, like Millennial Mike, he's touched on it recently on some videos. His goal is to be more. Yeah, I know he's, him and Dion are boys, and but I think Millennial Mike has more of a vision like the lumberjack landlord.
He
He's
does.
gonna he's
Yep.
gonna keep going and growing, and he's looking at it more from a standpoint of um almost like being able to do whatever you want because his vision is of where the country's headed, I guess, in a sense. And he just wants to be able to do everything he wants to do without, anybody basically saying that you have to do this or that. So he has more of a vision of getting and consistently getting this huge portfolio. Brady Morgan says, I'm home today because it's cold and raining. Nice to catch you live for a change. And I
Good
saw
stuff.
them jump over here. So thank you. Yeah, hit that like, hit the subscribe, Brady. Brannon is my regular Tuesday guest. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to skip next week. I'm going in for my second surgery on my shoulder.
He's getting
Um,
a psych evaluation.
yeah. But if you want to meet us in person, Brady, you can come to Vegas for the one rental at a time event in February, and Brandon will be on stage speaking about his build to rent model. Yasik is saying, from my experience, the boring made me the most return. Yes.
I think, what I've learned through life as I'm getting older. And I know you make fun of me on that. Thanks for those compliments of the boomer.
I never make fun of you, man.
Yeah. You know, I'm noticing too when I was pressing, I could accomplish good things, but as I've gotten more content and allowing good things to come my way instead of having to constantly pursue, I've had better things come and less stress. So I'm at a space now of almost full retirement, and it's great not feeling that stress of always having to strive and depress. It's good. I'm not saying I'm completely finished. I still have the business, but I don't have to be here at a specific time. I don't even have to be here every day.
You
I
just
can
have to fake your wife out that you're
I have to
working.
fake my wife out that I'm actually doing something, not playing on YouTube, as she says.
Trade Better 99 says, Brandon, would you be worried with the population growth that would stress the freshwater prices even more in Dallas Fort Worth? Shout out T Boone Pickens.
Oh yeah, T. Boone Pickens talked about water becoming so valuable. So he did. I'm not hearing, and I don't see anything right now with water being an issue at all in our Dallas Fort Worth area. Um, so far, it's been. I mean, it's a very valid point because when I was growing up, Dallas Fort Worth was less than 3 million, and now we're over 8 million people in 30 years. So, but no, none of the communities are talking about any water stress right now. We've got quite a few lakes in the area. Some of them are man-made, some of them are natural, but we've got quite a few lakes in the area. Not an issue right now.
Brady Morgan says, boring is best. You actually only need 15 rentals, maybe even less, but 15 rentals to retire with $500,000 a year if done correctly, and no management headaches from large portfolio. Ryan Ruff says, if you've got a clear vision, everything else will fall into place on your real estate journey. And if you want to know what that vision is, go check out on my YouTube channel. I just interviewed Ryan and his wife, Keisha. A great interview. It was a lot of fun. And they will also be speaking in Vegas in February.
When I strive, or like when I'm holding on tight to something, it tends to slip right through my fingers. I've learned that with life. And when you don't, I also realize, and this comes, from my faith background, that U-Haul is not going to be following me to the cemetery. So I don't hold on to it tight. Even if I were to lose it all today, I'm not worried. I know I've learned the things that they can't take away from me. If, say, somebody to sue me into bankruptcy, let's just use that as illustration. They sue me and somehow they take all my assets, which would be pretty difficult because the bank's going to fight too, and the attorneys. But if I were to lose it all today, what I've learned in life, we talked about this very morning. I had breakfast with one of the guys that came last year. I have enough knowledge and wisdom now that I could come back in just a few years. But if I were to have had that happen to me in my 20s, I just didn't have the knowledge and wisdom. It would have taken a lot longer. So I just don't hold on to it very tight, and know that I'm just a steward of it, and trying to, take good care of it, and that ultimately my children will be the ones that handle it. So I know Ryan, the Ruffs, they were talking about it too. It's really teaching my children now stewardship, trying to get them ahead. Even before I had it in my 30s is when I started really starting to understand things. I want them to understand it now in their late teens, and I'm trying to teach them financial literacy now, so that when they take over the role of managing these properties, they know more than I ever did at their age.
Before we get into the next commandment, I don't know if you maybe want to touch on this because I do hear this from a few people when Vegas is brought up for the ORAD event. So, like Brady says, yeah, unfortunately, Brady says too busy to make it to Vegas. But the thing that I hear quite a bit is, I admittedly am not a fan of Vegas.
Me neither. Me neither. We just, we do what we do to enjoy it. My wife comes with me. We've got some friends, but yeah, Vegas is not my favorite place. But there's lots of things to do. That's the only good thing, is there's lots of options, and I think that's what makes Vegas convenient. Plenty of rooms, plenty of entertainment, and people have options.
Yeah, Brady, I would just say, a lot of people that do attend don't do much of the Vegas things anyway. It's pretty
Yeah,
much you're just sitting down after the event, talking story.
it's more networking and
Yeah,
relationship building. It's not maybe what that party atmosphere you're thinking of. That's really this group in both years. Everybody's there through the whole meeting for the 2 days, and then staying around networking. It's different. It's not
yeah,
what you
and
think.
and there is people that do gamble and stuff, but they
Oh
usually
yeah,
do it at the end. So people might be heading home or back to their hotel at like 2 or something, and those that want to gamble, head out after, and get you know hit the tables for a little while.
that's not me.
Um,
I work too hard for my money.
Before we get to your next one, let's answer this quick one. Flavio's asking Brandon, what is the average rent on the new building that you do?
So these are averaging $2,100 in rent, and I'm keeping building. These are all single family homes, and so far in the three that I've built, I have two more started this month. They get rented in literally less than 7 days, and two of the three so far, they liked what I built, that they signed 2-year leases day one.
All right. There's a lot more questions, but before we get into that, I wanna make sure we get to some more of the commandments because we're not doing it next week, our recording. So
Okay.
which one are we on
So
next?
number 8, time is your greatest asset. You shall use it wisely to your benefit. And I think I look at it as a lot of people don't leverage time. And what I'm talking about is they're not allowing time to do its work in wealth creation. The group that you see that have the largest amount of wealth leveraged time. They allowed time for it to appreciate, for the principal pay down, all of those things to happen. It's not just the initial return. It's not just the cash on cash return, because I'm focusing on both income and wealth creation. I want to leverage time. Number 9, thou shalt have a long-term focus. That goes back to number 8, similar to, is I'm thinking decades. I'm looking at, I want to buy and hold. I'm evaluating properties differently. I think anybody would evaluate properties if they're looking at keeping it 2 to 5 years versus, hey, I'm going to keep this for multiple decades. You tend to look at it differently. And so I'm having a long-term focus.
Well, quickly, so on 8 and 9, and I think Ike had a great comment. I can't remember what it was, but it was last week when Emily and Jeff and Hold It with PM Jen was on. But it was kind of about time. corrects mistakes, or I forget what the exact what Ike was actually saying, but to your point, right? So people get stuck in analysis paralysis a lot of times, but sometimes taking the leap, and real estate is pretty favorable if you hold it long enough, right? It corrects
You're
a
right.
lot of mistakes,
It
right?
can
So
work itself out even
yeah.
on any type, most mistakes. Yeah, because compound growth works with compound time. You want to use that leverage of time. We use leverage of other people's money. We also need to use leverage of time. That's another component to investing in real estate, is leveraging time to build you wealth and income, because we know rents will grow over. It might not be growing next year, but over a 10-year period, we know rents generally they go up. Same thing with real estate.
Sorry,
Up
Ike
lots.
wants to clarify. Time heals deals.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
then and Gus is saying, so we have one more, I believe, but Gus is saying this is a great list. So
Thank you.
I don't know, Brandon, can Gus steal this and put it on his Instagram maybe? I know so go check out Gus on
Yeah,
Instagram also.
yeah, he can do
All right.
that.
So
And the video came out last week, and in the notes, I do put it all in the notes on that YouTube video. So that's, I'm wanting to use compound time with the compound growth, and be thinking decades. The wealthy think in years and decades, and many times they're thinking multiple decades. I want to play where the wealthy play. And then the final one is, thou shalt be a good steward. I don't want to have greed in my life, and I want to be a good steward, realizing it's not just about me. It's about my family. It's about me thinking about my wife when I'm gone, because I'm older than her a little bit. I'm older than her, and I'm thinking about her and them. And am I a good steward of all the things that I'm doing, and steward of not just the money, but am I a good steward of teaching them what to do when I'm gone?
um so Jeff is asking, can you copy the list into the chat?
Probably.
Jeff asking Brandon to do that is
I
like me
know.
trying to get you to link your channel last week on the live stream.
I bet
Uh,
I can. Well, I don't. Will yeah? Will the chat take that many words?
well, can you put it in the private chat and maybe I can do little by little?
Okay.
Or you know what you can do, Jeff, is you go to Brandon's YouTube channel and you go watch his video. Yeah, is that right? Would you have it
Yeah,
on there?
I
Yeah.
do have it on there, but
Um,
I'm working on it now.
all right. So those are the 10 commandments. But I also want to get to, there was a question from Charles. Charles is asking, where did it go? Shoots. Um, where the heck was it? It was about debt and retirement. Sorry, man, I skipped over it. So where is it? Oh, here. Does retirement change appetite for debt at all?
I think I still believe in some form of leverage, because I think it's a good use of money, but not. I agree with where Dion's at. I think in that leverage of maybe a 50%. But even with that, maybe protecting the portfolio even better, having a few of the properties that are owned free and clear, but my global leverage is 50%.
Brady makes kind of a good point. He says, Charles, productive debt does not care if you are retired or not. The only thing that changes is qualifying for debt with less income. Hmm.
So I just copied it into private chat, but it only did 4 of them. So I'm gonna do the other ones.
All right, let's see if I don't know if I can put all of that.
I know that's the thing.
All right. How about Brandon posted in school? So if you're not in school, you got to
Let's
join
do
school.
that. I think that's even better. That's even better.
We're improvising here. I think Lynn is agreeing. Yes, she's not a big fan of Vegas either. But Yasik says, just remember, Vegas is only the location. It's about the people. Ah.
That's right.
Here we go. Frank says, "Thank you for always praying for us." Brannon, sorry, Mark takes up so much of your prayer times.
That's true. That's true.
Uh, let's see. What else we got? I see Dylan
I
tuning
call
in.
it, I told Michael the other day, I call it the ORAT family reunion. And I mean that in very sincere terms. I think our group, with all these lives that Marc has been so good, he's kind of started with it and it's grown a life of its own. Our group gets to be around each other, plus the accountability groups. It becomes a family reunion type of meeting. Yeah, we're there learning some stuff too, but it's more meeting up with friends face to face, and it's a unique experience. As you get more plugged into the group, it becomes a family reunion every year.
All right, before we get into Charles' question, like I said, if people aren't aware, or I don't think they even posted it yet, so be on the lookout. There should be another accountability group starting up this Saturday. It is called OSTRAT, I believe. It is one short-term rental at a time. So Ray and Chris Price will be kicking that off, I believe, this Saturday for those interested in short-term rental, midterm rental. I think it's going to be every other week, though. It's not going to be every Saturday, though. But Charles is following up. He's saying debt passing to next generations. I guess maybe that's what he was talking about as far as passing
Gotcha.
down some debt to the next generation.
Yeah, that is what would happen. If you've got 50%, that is what would happen, but you have the cash flow. The things that I'm working on even this coming year is working on building out a stronger retirement will or trust. I don't know the exact answer yet. Getting with that guy locally I'm going to be meeting with. I don't want my kids to sell these properties. And I'm going to try to figure out what restrictions I can put on it, because naturally, I think back to when I was in my 20s and 30s, I would have, and it goes back to the principle of getting rid of the golden goose. I don't want them to have that option, because I think over time they might not fully understand the beauty of holding real estate on the long term. But then I'm also thinking about maybe a property, some reason has to be sold. How do I make sure that they can sell it only with a 1031 exchange, moving it into another investment property? I don't want them to get rid of the golden goose. And I would have naturally been more inclined to do that in my 20s and 30s. Say I were to pass away here soon. I'm not planning that, but say that were to, I just want to make sure my kids have the wisdom, and part of that is teaching them now, but I don't want them to even have that temptation.
Brady Morgan is saying to Charles, remember, step up in basis helps to offset. And I guess, to Charles's original question about debt passing to next generation, it's also, and I think we're all kind of believing it's going to be real estate, but there's also what kind of debt do you want? Because I know other families might be passing on different type of debt, or,
Right.
so there is, you do want to be trying to pass on assets, right, at some point. So that's the important thing to remember. Make sure, Jeff is saying, make sure they don't have to sell to settle your estate. Yep.
And that's where, a will actually has to go through the courts. A trust does not. I watched a video less than a month ago of it was that Toby Matheson. He did a very good everyday man description of a trust, and it made me open my eyes that I might need to talk a little further with the attorneys on that and figuring out what's the long term best thing to do,
Mhm.
because a trust does not go through the courts.
Yes, and I think Toby, if you see a lot of his videos recently, it's on these type of topics because I believe he had some health
He did.
concerns
He
within the
had some health
past year
concerns
or
that made him
so.
think about a lot of things.
Yeah. Dylan, who is thinking, says, I'm thinking education and wisdom over putting restrictions on selling because you never know what they could run into in the future. Hmm.
Well, Dylan, what I'm thinking about is if their only options are their inheritance, they didn't do good other ways. This inheritance should be a bonus. It should not be your retirement plan. I call them waiters. I don't want to be a waiter, and I don't want my make my kids a waiter. So I don't look at it as if that's their only option, then I failed them from the beginning.
I'm trying to find Nick's YouTube channel. So I see Lead Pray Huddle tuning in. So Nick is back from his she's I think he was gone for a few weeks, but he was on a trip. So we're gonna do weekly Bitcoin wrap-ups on Saturdays. But there's his channel. Go check him out on Lead Pray Huddle. And we finally figured out how to get his channel linked. We've been having major issues getting his channel to stream at the same time. Um, this is a great question. I have to look into. I never read. If you have real estate in an LLC, does it step up for your heirs?
I want to believe so.
Yeah,
I want to believe so. I've just never thought of that question. That'll be when I'm meeting with the attorney, the estate planner. I would believe so, because I know you can put those LLCs even in a trust also.
yeah. So that'll be my thought also, but not advice. But definitely do your own research, and like Brandon, maybe he can tell us what he found out when he talks with his attorney or whatnot. Chris Webb is saying yes, a trust is much better than a will, but it's also more costly. Ooh, I'm not sure who this individual is. I believe they're tuning in from your channel. I don't know if
Yeah,
they're
I don't know.
yeah, but maybe they're looking forward to the um one rental at a time, one short-term rental at a time accountability call. But don't forget to come to my channel and subscribe also, please. But Brady says I haven't said anything publicly yet, so you guys are hearing it first. But I am to publish a new real estate strategy book that I think you guys will love. I would be sure to send you both a copy.
Sounds
Oh,
good.
very cool. Hey, Brady, maybe you can put out just where are you investing? Or, I mean, where do you invest and whatnot? And just a great segue to maybe Brannon. Brannon's also working on a book. I'm not sure how far he is on it,
Not
but
far right now.
let's see. Oh, it says it goes hand in hand with the Ten Commandments. His
Oh,
book.
okay.
Charles is saying trust doesn't mean cooperation. Step up can complicate as values, forcing the responsible to carry the ones that aren't. Trust. Wait. Trust.
Guess I'm not fully.
Um, I believe he's kind of getting to the point of a trust. Still, it's still the people involved need to cooperate for the trust to be fully effective from a standpoint of um, you know, people getting the benefits, I guess, in a sense. If they inherit things, it could be in a trust, which does help from, the step up basis tax and what, but it's still the parties involved. If they're not going to complicate or cooperate on things,
You're right.
it's still,
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
So
Yep.
I think to his point, it's also how that trust is set up, right? So if you leave it like 50-50, then yeah, you're probably going to have issues, right? So there, that's another thing when you are setting it up,
Oh
you
yeah,
probably,
I've got to think all
yeah.
that, because I gave that advice to my parents. They didn't listen, and my brother and I are 50-50 co-executors of the estate, and I hope it's going to go well. We'll find out someday.
Oh, very cool. Brady, you build rentals in Wyoming. You should tune in to my Friday lives. I have Emily Lopez on. She is a realtor, investor, DIY contractor in Wyoming. So she has a big YouTube channel. I'll put it in the chat. So she has a DIY channel and she has a regular real estate channel, but her name is Emily Lopez. She'll be in Vegas also. Yes, so I believe this is Sid from school, if I'm not mistaken. But he says Toby Mathis. Yeah, that is my experience also. So I believe Anderson Advisors has really gone down in their customer service.
Mm.
A lot of things seem outsourced. So yeah, they're very pricey. So what you pay for, I just kind of stick with them because it's all set up through them already. But yeah, I feel the same way, Sid. I believe they're very unresponsive now. Yeah, so Charles is saying, yeah, don't set up a fight. Hey, Chris
Yes,
Wissing is here.
Charles, I understand what you're saying, and I've already thought of that, and we'll be setting it up where I try to prevent that as much as possible.
I do. So I'm gonna put in Chris Wissing's channel. Go check him out. He's doing a lot of. I think he's working on some rafters or something right now. I saw a short that he just put out recently. But here I'm gonna look for Emily's channel while maybe Brannon can dig into. Let's see what is this? What did he say? Flavio saying, Brannon, also if your daughter get married, tell her that her assets,
Yep.
not share with her husband just in case of divorce. Okay, let's see. Brannon, how can we be on the list for first edition book sales?
We'll figure that out. I've still got to get it started. Well, I have it started, but get going on it where I can give more detail, where I can see when I think I can finish it. It's just not there yet. But y'all, this group will always be the first that learns about it.
And are you going to ask Zuber to be under the one rental at a time
I
branding, I
think
believe?
that's exactly where I'd love to be. I do. I believe in what all this group's perspectives are.
Yes, so Brady, there is Emily's both YouTube channels, and I'll be live streaming with her on Friday. So come check that one out. Let's see. Sid, this is Sid from school. That's what I thought. So Sid says asset protection and tax planning together, Brandon. Yeah. Definitely their service has gone downhill. I understand advisors. Oh, Chris Webb says in the new year, I'll be working on a book as well, a follow-up for those who are looking for something after Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Ah,
Do you? I don't know if anybody's read um, "Why the Rich Are Getting Richer" by Robert Kiyosaki. It came out. It's one of his late books, 1617. It is actually considered the second part of Rich Dad Poor Dad. That book is.
I don't believe I even saw that one before.
Yep.
Interesting.
It's pretty tedious. There's sections of it with lots of graphs, but it is actually called the ancillary book to Rich Dad Poor Dad.
All right. I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to touch on before we wrap things up?
I think I think that's good for today.
Will you be posting everything in school then? The
I
10 command.
will here in just a minute. I'll post those 10 commandments.
All right. So if you're not in school, maybe you
Join
should
school.
join. It's only $20 a month. You can check it out. Hey, Hugo's checking in last minute. So what's up, Hugo? He may be in Vegas, I believe. But if you also want some more great real estate Bitcoin news, go check out Stay Winning on YouTube and Instagram. I am not writing a book, Flavio, and I'm not writing it in Spanish. That's for sure. Or it won't be in Spanish. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Trust like the Vanderbilts. Sid is saying, right? Yeah. Trade better wants to be on the book list for Chris, and yeah, man, this was fun. Like I said, unfortunately, we won't be able to do
We'll be
next
gone
week.
next week. Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna skip next week. I do have a second surgery on my shoulder, but I will be back tomorrow with Joel Farrell. Hopefully, Monica would join us. We're trying to get Monica. She said she is nervous on camera, but she did a great job. So we'll try to get her
Just
back
be
on.
herself. That's all you have to do. Be
That's
yourself.
that's what we said, man. And then recording. I'll be back Thursday also with the Deacon, Alex Deacon from Pittsburgh. He's gonna show us some deals he's been working on. And yeah, Friday I'll be back with Emily. So Brandon, when's your next video coming out? Then what's the next for your channel?
It'll be next week. I'm gonna work on what did I do this week? I did talk about the law of compound interest and the rule of 72. That'll be next week. And then I've got stuff here in the background. I'm going over some numbers of a recent build to rent and just describing how, yes, the cash flow is important, but look at what wealth was built out of thin air.
Nice. And how's that project going? The one that had the tree that you just
I was filming this weekend. We just put in the form boards, which are the boards that form out the foundation. We now have to get a form board survey to make sure it fits properly with the offsets, the setbacks on the side and the back and the front. As soon as we get that form board survey done, we'll start digging for the plumbing, and we'll be pouring foundation, we hope, by right around that last week of December, if things line out right. So we're just these are two lots, two houses. I am actually doing an interview with Michael Zuber on Monday, talking about these builds just a little bit and talking about what the goals are.
Oh, nice. Oh, you know what? Before I wrap things up, then, like I said, there's a new accountability group starting on Saturday. But I think Zuber also mentioned he is going to go live in school with Rob Built
Yes.
from well, formerly Bigger Pockets, but talking about short-term rentals. And oh, you know what? Here's a question for you then. How do you get so it's from Jen? How do you get the kids interested in real estate without being too aggressive and scaring them off?
Man, I don't know the exact answer. They've been around Mindy and I, my wife and I, talking about real estate since they were very, very little. Two of them are more interested in it than the others, than my oldest, but she knows I know how to handle money. And so she does say, yeah, dad really knows what he's doing. So they do hear about the real estate. We started playing cash flow. There's a cash flow for kids game, which is learning how to handle money. It's really for kids, I would say maybe third, fourth grade up until eighth grade, probably use the cash flow for kids game. The adult game, I think from freshman year on in high school would be a good one. It allows them to learn how to handle money. But I've sat down with the family and trying to teach them what I'm doing, and not just talk about, like everybody says, well, even my own wife has said, why are you getting so focused on these? They're only making $300 a month, because that's all she's naturally seeing. And then so I sat down with the entire family and explained it's not the 300, it's the wealth that is built on these build to rent model. That's even more money than the 300 a month. And I drew out an iceberg, and I said, I showed the water line, the tip was the 300. That's what everybody sees. But the real wealth is what's underneath the water line.
Yeah, so Hugo is saying time is greater than money. Brady Morgan said, yes, absolutely. Time is the most valuable resource of all. Money is just a temporary store of value. And Brady Morgan also said, build to rent is the best returns I found in my short investing career. Oh, here, hold on. So, and Hugo Stay Winnings answering Jen. He says, when I was a kid, I would see the landlord pull up in the brand new shiny car and stick her hand out while my dad gave her cash. That showed me very early the power of real estate.
Wow, what an image. Wow.
Kind of to that point, one of my friends, the wife was on the channel recently, Aloha Alisa Fit, but the husband Tyler is my investing buddy also, but he's financially free somewhat. They house hack in Hawaii and stuff like that. But anyways, when he was going to college at UW, that was his story. Him and whatever 10 Hawaii dudes were in whatever some college housing thing, and they would pay cash, right? So the landlord or someone would come up, they'd pay them the rent. And then he said, after a year or next semester or whatever, they moved into another location, maybe, another 6, 7 guys. They found a different spot, and the same guy came up to collect the rent. And he was like, dude, this guy just collected. And then he started talking to him. And that's how he kind of figured out the power of real estate.
I saw it a lot growing up too. Watched, I've shared this before. I watched my family build a subdivision, and this wasn't a big one. This was a smaller subdivision that had roughly, I think it's around 40 lots. But I've just grown up around it and knew that I would head into that. I've always had an interest in real estate, and I think at least two of my kids, I would say, they have a general interest in it. So it's pretty exciting to watch them, and maybe one of them is the trustee of our trust.
Charles McCune says, oh, Sid said 10 Commandments. Yes, thumb or hands up. Or Charles McCune says, Brady, imagine one kid has an 80-acre farm in Sheridan, one has an 80-acre farm in Casper, and one has an 80-acre farm in Cheyenne. The step up may make things worse in time for each to keep their farm. Hmm.
Well, I think that would come in play on, like right now, you can inherit wealth up, if it's a husband and wife passing the wealth, right now, it's up to $25 million in wealth. And it goes up every year. There's a basis for that, so it increases every year unless the government chooses to change that law.
Yeah.
I don't
Jeff.
anticipate being above 25 million. I'm
Jeff is in York,
just
Pennsylvania.
confessing.
He says sun is up, temp is down 10 degrees. He says F here. So what's the weather like for you, Brannon, in your area?
The high today is in the 60s.
Nice. So Yasik says yes, awesome game. Play with my boys. Yes, I have one also. It definitely is makes him think. So I like that. It's actually fun to play with
We've
them.
had some of their friends come over and play it. It's for me, it's a goal because I do a lot of teaching in the schools, is getting that financial literacy education to this Gen Z group that really does have an interest in it. They do. They're seeing either their parents or friends of their parents struggling, and they don't want to be that. So I'm capitalizing on their interest of wanting to have money.
So Jeff is saying put me on the book list. So I believe that is for you, Brady, and Chris Webb. So
Yeah.
put Jeff on the book list. Trade Better saying, Brannon, please post the iceberg example. My family has the same struggles about only seeing 300 to 400 a month in cash flow.
There's a video of it, I would say a couple of months ago, but I'll see what I can post out there on our ORAP. But I know I have a video. I'm thinking back 2-3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, I did a video on the iceberg principle.
All right, let's see if there's anything else. Brady's just clarifying, said, Charles, I was talking about for sale, which is what typically happens with inheritance. The debt is not a problem if they keep it as a rental because it pays for itself. In the case of 80-acre farm, it will likely be so. That's how it always happens here, at least. Yasik is saying, with money, you can buy time, but can't buy time back. Sid is saying, Chris Webb, please make it an interesting read on Audible, and I'm sold. Charles is saying, we've had one tenant farm, the same 80 for 80 years. Just kept passing.
Wow.
All right.
But I think, Charles, it is. I agree. It's becoming more rare. You're seeing a lot of these farm families, unfortunately, have to sell sometimes. But yeah,
Well, I think part of that is sell sometimes, but also just, yeah, like the kids have no interest in
you're right.
having a farm, right? So yeah, so it's selling. But yeah, this was a great one. So we got a lot of homework for you. So good thing we have a week off. So you need to put the
I know.
iceberg
Now I've
example,
got to work on
put
the.
the 10 commandments, and work on your book. Make a book sign up list or something. But also, like I said, I also mentioned thank you to Yasik for purchasing the remainders of Frank's t-shirts for the one rental at a time event, where the money proceeds are being donated to the Blind Center. If you want to know how to win some of those shirts, go check out Frank's YouTube channel, and he has a video talking about how you can win some prizes. All right, so I'll see everyone tomorrow, same time, and thanks, Brandon, for doing this, man. I'll see you in
Yep.
2 weeks, man.
Enjoyed it.
Okay, bye.